Hello! This is my third mix analysis that I said I would be doing on one of my songs on the EP. Now I've already done one of the other songs in the EP, but this is the newest one that I've just finished. So I'm actually going to try and keep this under 10 minutes based on the feedback. So I'm just going to sort of speed run through this rather than going into immense detail. So I'm going to start straight off over here on the left in the green. We have my drums. So all of these crashes and the splash and the hats, they all had a lot of low end. And since, I got bass and kick and guitars that are already really low end oriented, I don't want these crashes and hats to be messing up that whole entire area. Same with these toms. I sort of wanted this the low floor toms to sit around the really low end, and then I did the opposite with these higher toms. They're sort of just sitting in other places, and I dipped in the 200 to 1K just so that they didn't drown out completely the guitars. I did a bit of work on the snare though. Snare and the kick both have a compressor on them because it is heavy metal, and I did. Oh, actually, this is a softer song, so it's not as heavy metal, but Same with the floor tom. These are all just things that I wanted to get a really big hit out of, so I relatively slower attack sort of in the mid-range, and then the release a bit longer just so I can get that hit in. I can and then push down the rest of the feedback. So all of these are being sent through a drum reverb, to which there was a lot of low end coming through, and I just again didn't want to muddy up my guitars. So here for my chorus voices, I have a double dub voice, and since the phrases sort of overlap, I've got two separate ones saying the different phrases, as you'll be able to hear here. Oops. Yep, so these I sort of just did the same processing to all of these. All of this processing here, I didn't really do much processing to these guys because I recorded them really nicely through a Rode NT2A, and I really liked the sound I was getting out of them, so I just compressed them a little bit to make them more of an even sound wave. Yeah, the bass, I rounded out a lot completely because this is a MIDI bass, so if you leave a lot of the high end in, it sounds really unnatural when you have the high end. So, and I want it sort of to just be the low end of my guitars. So I kept this sort of end here, and and I dipped it down sort of the 50 to 100 area because I want the kicks. If I go back to the kicks here, I want the kicks to be the 50 to 100 area, and then I dipped away the 100 to 200 area of the kick so that it didn't get in the way of the bass. So I need them to coincide rather than fighting each other. So we go back to the start. This is sort of the same phrase, sort of just looped over. So that's looped over and over. And as I've done with all these, I've left these ones open so you can see one example, but if you see over here on the side, for all of the guitars, I have 3 microphones, and then I sort of just messed around with these to get the sound I sort of wanted out of each guitar. So I've hidden the rest, but I send these through a bus and over here into my intro guitar. So the lead guitar, solo guitar, clean guitar, heavy guitars, they all have their own set of 3 microphones. But yeah, here's the intro guitar. No processing really. I did most of the processing on the amplifier in terms of the EQ, and it has a it's going through the verse reverb. I wanted them all to go through their own reverb, so yeah, that one also has a chorus effect on it. Over here, the lead guitar, let me skip to the end where the solo is. Again, most of the effects were done on the amplifier, so this one has a tremolo and a chorus on it. Just wanted to eliminate some of those low-end hits, like it's not a percussion instrument, so didn't want that to get in the way of the kick or anything. And that's pretty much it, and then... Oh, that's a solo guitar. Yeah. Cool, the lead guitar. I don't know why I skipped the lead. Of course. So I grabbed every single note that I played on this and I actually reversed it. Needed a lot of compression on this, and I just dipped out the high end because it was really clicky. But if I do this without compression, it's really, really bad. So I just wanted it to be heard at the same level, more or less the whole time. So if I skip over here to the clean guitars, this is for the bridge part. Also going through the verse reverb. Again, most of the processing was done on the amplifier, and they are by themselves, so they're not really interfering with anything except for the voice, but it's not really cluttered when the voice comes in, so I sort of just left them alone. Here, the heavy guitars. I really liked the sound I got out of the heavy guitars again. This is a really well-recorded mix, so I didn't really have to do too much processing, except I just wanted to dip this out because it was actually drowning out a lot of the vocals and a lot of the weird frequencies. Originally I had a chorus on them, but I didn't like that. So that brings us here to the verse harmonies. I mean there's the verse vocals. I'll start with them. So there's two. That one's actually muted. I ended up not doing anything with that duplicate, but over here, this verse harmony. It's actually a carbon copy, except I use Melodyne to actually create the harmonies for it, and it doesn't sound good by itself. But we'll play with this. Yeah, if I chuck the compressor on it and then EQ it so it's sort of in the back, it sort of gets taken over by the main vocals, which I like. These vocals here, for the verse vocals, were very boxy, probably because I recorded them in my room. So a lot of that weird muddiness down there, so I just took a lot of it out, as much out as I could without actually affecting the voice. Over here, Audio 1, which I did not label, was just this small little reverse reverb. Just this tiny little flare that I like to add. So this is the heavy vocals. This one's got a wet reverb on it. I've turned it into a complete wet reverb, so there's no dryness, because I wanted it to sort of be a really background scream. Now, like I usually do with the guitars, I dipped out this sort of range to let the lead guitar come through. So this heavy vocals have sort of become the guitar, and the lead guitar has become the main vocals. Sort of a role switch, which I sort of like about this effect. Also put a multi-delay on it. Now, this one over here is sort of the same thing, except more up front, without the verb on it. It's the most upfront in the actual mix. So most of that was just getting sent over to here. So the verse reverb here, very long reverb, because I wanted the verse to be a really bright, echoey sort of sound. But when we come into the chorus here, different. You can't see it here, but the main chorus vocals is actually 3 different voices. And now, just before, this is actually Melodyne again, but except this time I printed it so that I could copy it over to the next chorus. So for the first chorus, there's only a little bit of harmonies. Then the next one has more. So yeah, in this end one here, there's 6 voices, because there's 3 main vocals, 1 harmony vocal. This is a low, so it's sort of an octave down. And this one here is the same as this melodined vocal, but melodined from this one, so it's again an octave lower. So I did all of these and just sort of EQ'd them to be around the side and panned them, just so it becomes more of a choir by the end, rather than 6 separate voices. I've got the strings here. Strings were nice and bright, so I pushed that up. The strings are actually really nicely EQ'd already. You never really have to touch strings too much. So that's just the Vox reverb. It's a shorter reverb. This is the reverb I use for the chorus. And there's just a small effect delay here that I use for the vocals, the main vocals here. Chorus delay. And lastly, I put a Pro Q on there just so I could see the spectral feedback that I get from. Yeah, it's relatively flat, which is, what you want to see in a mix. You don't want to have too much of any frequency. Then I just use the maxim, put my ceiling to negative 0.3, which is where I usually have it. I could bring this down a lot more if I wanted to, but this needs to be a fairly dynamic mix, so I sort of just let it have a little bit more headroom. It's loud enough already anyways, so there's no point in compressing it even more, because I need this to be a really clean mix, and if I get it any further, it sort of gives it a little bit more of a scratchiness that I don't like. So I just let it have more headroom. So hopefully that mix was a lot more fast and a lot more entertaining than the long drawn out ones of the last ones. But I'm actually, this is probably the best mix that I've done so far. I said in the last one that was the best mix, but now I agree on this one, because this one it's just very clean, is what I like about it. I usually have problems with EQing, but I think it started at the recording stages that this one could be EQ'd really well. So that's the last one for me. Thank you very much for watching.